the dimensions. That's today's conference. Okay, this is a really interesting conference because it like lets you know where are you. Okay, yeah, you might be looking at me like, what do you mean where am I? You know where you are. You know if you're at school, you know if you're at work, you know if you're at home, you know if you're asleep. But we don't know in what dimension we are. We don't know what dimension we're vibrating in. Okay, we could all of a sudden just appear in another dimension and suddenly just come back. How do you know where you are? Okay, so that's what today's conference is. Okay, so there are as many dimensions as states of consciousness. Okay, so if you're there thinking of what I'm trying to tell you of a state of consciousness, well, just imagine that you go in a place and you see me here sitting on the floor and with my eyes just looking to one place. Not even blinking. And just quiet, and maybe you would come and go like this, but I will be there. You would say, well, she's in another world, she's somewhere else. Okay, and that is true. I'm in another dimension. Okay, because I'm in another state of consciousness. Let's just say that I'm here cracking up and I'm just here laughing and laughing, but the TV is not on. There is nothing on. I'm just here, and I just keep laughing and laughing and laughing, and you don't even know why, but I'm here. Nobody told me a joke. I was here alone, but you just walked in and you're watching me from far away, and I just keep laughing and laughing, or maybe just talking to the wall. Imagine that. I'm there talking to the wall, and you're staring at me, and I'm there talking to the wall. Well, yeah, you'll say, yeah, she's totally out. She's nuts. But I'm in another state of consciousness. I'm in another dimension. Okay, if that person were able to go into that dimension, that person would see who I'm talking with. That person would know, oh yeah, she's not talking to the wall. Okay, she's talking to this, because the person would be able to see it. Okay, so that's what I mean, that there are many states of consciousness as dimensions. Okay, so every state of consciousness is a dimension. But today we're going to talk about the 7 basic dimensions of nature. Okay, so we are all inside those 7 dimensions. One is inside the other, and mentally we go in and out of all of them. Okay, unconsciously we go there and come out and we don't know. Okay, so that's the point of this conference. Okay, for us to know what exactly do we find in that dimension, what does it feel, so we know where we have been. Okay, so we'll begin with the first dimension. The first dimension is the limbo, the waiting room of hell. Okay, well, yeah, that sounds terrible. And that place, it's like putting 200 people in a bathroom. Yes, 200 people in a bathroom. Imagine the pressure that it feels. Okay, imagine how you would feel if you would put 200 people. I mean, you cannot even imagine it. Okay, but you're still alive even though. And there are 200 people in that bathroom. Okay, imagine how that feels, all that pressure, everybody screaming, it's extremely hot, you can hardly breathe, you just want to run away. That's how it feels. So when you have a nightmare and you feel that way, it's because you went to that first dimension. Okay, when does that usually happen? When people use too much alcohol, for example, and they go to sleep and they have a nightmare. When people use drugs and they go to sleep and they have a nightmare. When you're poisoned, okay, food poisoning, for example, and you just pass out, but what all you felt, it's like if you were burning, like if there's like your heart was going like really fast, and there was a lot of pressure and you just felt scared. Okay, that's being in that first dimension. So when one of those things happen to you, it's because your soul went to that first dimension. Okay, so that's what we find there. There, the animals that live there are the animals that don't have a spine. Okay, they live in that dimension. That is their dimension, and they just see like from one point to another point, and that's it. Okay, they don't see everything like we do, like 360. No, they just see from one point to the point that they're going to. Okay, so that's where they would go. That's all they see. So it's like something like that. Okay, so they feel, of course they feel, and they have movement, but that's the feeling inside them. Okay, they're in that dimension. The second dimension, it's the dimension of our personality. Okay, it is called the dimension of, I just forgot, superficial. Yeah, it's a superficial dimension. It means that everything there, we see it like a square. So it's only what it is, the height and width. Okay, so it's like that. It's like watching TV. Okay, like how you guys are seeing me. Okay, you're just seeing me through something like that, just plain. Okay, that's how animals with I always forget that word, with a spine, see. Okay, like the dogs. If you have a dog, have you noticed that the dog is running in the house and all of a sudden he just hits himself with the chair? I mean, and we're like how stupid. I mean, well, I don't mean to tell the dog stupid, but I mean, don't you see? Like, don't you go around it? And once again, I mean, even if they have their eyes without hair, you know, that they could see, and they hit themselves again, boom. And you're like, again? I'm like, really? It's because in that dimension, they see in that square way. And I laugh because it reminds me of my dog. And my dog used to always hit himself, always with the same chair. And I was like, really? I mean, how many times are you going to hit yourself with the same thing? But after I learned this, then I understood. I'm like, oh yeah, well, poor dog. So even if I moved the chair, okay, he would hit himself again with the chair, and it was always with that chair. But okay, so there, it's the world of our personality, and it's the dimension of everything that is superficial. That's why we are so superficial, and we tag everything: big, small, nice, ugly, pretty, beautiful, expensive, old. But it's because mentally our mind lives in that superficial things. Okay, that's why we don't see more than that. That's why these spiritual topics for many people are not something important. It's not interesting. Okay, because people's minds are in everything that it is superficial. Okay, they live in a superficial world. Well, we live in a superficial world too, because here, for making the video, for example, I'm always looking at the superficial thing. Well, I want this to be shown, I want this color, and what should I wear? Because we are superficial, because our mind goes to that second dimension. Okay, but that second dimension, it doesn't have that same pressure as the first dimension. Okay, then we have the third dimension, that is this one where we live in. That means that it is the dimension of volume. Okay, so we have height, width, and long, so it gives us the volume. So that's why we see where to walk around. Okay, and we see the volume of everything. Okay, what is the purpose of this dimension? Okay, the purpose of this dimension is creating. Everything that is creation is here in this dimension. Okay, that's why plants create, and we see how the seeds grow. Okay, that's how we see animals reproduce, and we just see. Okay, we see how their body begins to change, and we have puppies and kittens, and we're like, oh, that is so cute. Well, because we could see it, we could really see it, because it's in our dimension, okay, where we are here physically living in, okay. So here, this is our nationality. Our third dimension is our nationality. For the other dimensions, what we have is visa, okay. We have a visa, so we travel to the first, to the second, to the others. But what happens? That we must come back to our own country, okay. That is this dimension. We must come back here, okay. It's where we are from this third dimension. But what's the great news about it? That this dimension, since it's the dimension of creation, it's the dimension where we create the bodies of the being. That means that we create the bodies that are needed to be in those dimensions, so we are able to live in those dimensions, okay. Not on the first and the second near hell, no, to live upper, okay, in the higher dimensions, okay, in the sixth and seventh dimension, okay, to become someone as Saint Germain, okay, live eternally, travel through time, come back and forth, okay. That's the point of this third dimension, is to be able to create, okay. Then let's go to the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension, it's of vital energy, okay. It's the dimension of how long something lasts, okay. So for example, something is created in the third dimension, but what gives it life, of how long that volume is going to live, is the fourth dimension, okay, because it's the one that takes care of everything that is vital, okay. The waters, for example, it manages all the waters, and we are mostly water, okay. So that dimension gives us our lifetime and the lifetime of something, okay. So for example, well, imagine this thing, that's silver. When is that going to finish? Imagine the years and the years that are going to pass until that thing finally goes away, okay. Well, at least we die, and fast we disintegrate, okay. And imagine if we're burned, the faster we go away. But with this material, it's different, okay. But to all material and everything that is here in the third dimension, the fourth dimension gives it the lifetime, okay. So there we find the lifetime of everything. What's there in that fourth dimension? That fourth dimension, it's the triangle of the Bermudas, okay. That's the fourth dimension. That's that famous triangle of the Bermudas that we have heard that if something passes, an airplane is taken. Why is it taken? Because it takes the volume, and it's what gives it the lifetime, right? So it takes it with it. So it's part of the third dimension. The third dimension and the fourth dimension are two dimensions that work together, okay. We could travel there to that fourth dimension, and there are paradises there, okay. The Mayas, for example, the leaders, whatever happened to the leaders? If we go back in history, we will know that they never found them, okay. When they went up to the mountains to kill them, they were not there anymore. They just disappeared. It's unexplainable, okay. They just cannot explain what happened to them. Where did they go? They just traveled to the fourth dimension, okay. But why? Because they had this wisdom. They had their bodies created. They had their conscious awakened, so they knew that they were going to come for them, and it was as easy as just to travel to the fourth dimension. Obviously, taking their body. Every time we travel to the fourth dimension, we take our physical body, okay. So the physical body, they took it and they live there in a paradise just for them, okay, in a land that is in that fourth dimension, and that's where they live. Since they have their bodies created, they don't die. Okay, we die, but they don't die. But we will learn how to create those bodies so that we won't die. Okay, so that's what is there in that fourth dimension. Also, if I could just remember the name of the movie. The Seven Prophecies. Yeah, that's the name. And if I'm wrong, when I edit the video, I will write it right here under. Okay? But in the Seven Prophecies, it's the book and it's also the movie. In the movie, you could see it's in Peru. That's why I'm here thinking about the Mayas and everything. In that movie, you will see how the people there, they show you, and it's really, really great. They show you exactly that, how they are in this third dimension, and how all of a sudden they travel to the fourth dimension and they begin to see other beings that live in that dimension, and then all of a sudden they lose their concentration and they come back to this dimension. Okay, yeah, you will see it in that movie. That explains it perfectly. Okay, and it's a great spiritual movie. It's really, really good. Okay, so that's what happens in the fourth dimension. How do you get there? By Jinas. Okay, that's the method. I do not explain it because, I mean, it's putting your life in risk. I mean, why, I mean, yeah, can't just tell you how to do it. I mean, you could find it in Google. If you just look there, you will find different ways of putting your body in a Jinas state and traveling. But how are we guaranteed that we're going to come back, that we're not going to travel and we're going to be in the middle of the desert of an ocean or wherever we go? Okay, maybe let's say that we want to go to Alaska and we find ourselves there. Well, yeah, great, you made it. And how do I go back home? So that's why, yeah, if you want, search it, do it, let me know. But that's it. Okay, and okay, so we saw the first, second, third, fourth. Let's go to the fifth dimension. To this fifth dimension, we get there in our sleep. Okay, so yeah, that's what they call astral travel unfoldments. Okay, so when you go to sleep, we travel to the fifth dimension. Okay, so in that fifth dimension, there are many awesome things. You will find, I already have that video there that it gives you mantras for astral travel. Okay, and there I also have a long conference, well, another video, a long conference explaining astral travel, and promise to make a short video about astral travel because every time I talk about it, it's like way long. Okay, so in this fifth dimension, it is great because here we travel through time. Okay, we could travel all we want through time. We could go back in time all we want. This is great because there we could see that other lives exist, that we die and we're born again, we die and we're born again. There we could see who we were in a past life or in lives before. We could travel to the future of our lifetime. Okay, so let's say that they offer you a job, you don't know to take it or not. Okay, imagine that job, it's like in another country, really different from yours, and you're like, oh my god, but is it as good as it sounds? And well, what if it's not true? Okay, well, then here you just in your dreams travel there in the future and you're going to see if it's really good for you. Okay, if it is what you expected or even better, or maybe it's not even true. Imagine they were just lying to you for you to give them money. You never know. Okay, so you're going to find that there in that dimension. Okay, so there It's the fifth dimension, and as I said, there are two unfoldments, okay? So there in the astral travel, it's where we're going to go back and forth in time. So though we go forward in time, you cannot change the future, okay? That's something that we must have clear, okay? Doesn't mean that we're going to change the future. It just means that I'm going to know what destiny has for me, and if I don't want that destiny, I have to change my present. If I change my present, I will change that future, okay? And the other unfoldment is the mental unfoldment, okay? Well, in that mental unfoldment, it means that you put that we're here awake in this physical dimension. We go to sleep, we wake up in an astral travel. In that astral travel, we're going to go to sleep again. And when we wake up, that's in that mental world, okay? That is in the world of our own mind. There we could talk to our own thoughts, okay? Yeah, to our ego. So we talk to our ego, and our ego there, it's like being in the zoo, okay? So we have our funny ego, the ones that likes to make jokes, is a monkey. So let's say that we're studying that one because it's bringing us problems. So we start talking to the monkey. The monkey talks back. Okay, yes it does. It's like watching a movie and they talk back to you. Okay, so we could ask them like, how did I create you? Okay, how did it happen? What don't you like? What do you like? Why is it that you always make me do this? Okay, and it's going to keep answering you. Okay, maybe it will tell you, well, it's because, you know, because I get nervous because we're in public, so I make you do those things so I could calm down, so you could understand your mind better. Okay, then that's what happens to us when we say that we were dreaming, but we woke up in the dream. We thought we were here, but then you woke up again and you're like, oh my god, but what happened? I thought I was already here awakened. It's because we were in that mental world. Okay, so sixth dimension. In the sixth dimension, it's the dimension of our being. Okay, so what we find in our first, second, third, fourth, and fifth dimension, it's our ego. Okay, there, our ego lives in those fifth dimensions. Okay, so it's really, really necessary for us to work on our psychology, to be sure of what we're seeing and that it is not a projection of something that we have done. But don't get upset and don't say, oh, well, I was so excited. Don't worry. I mean, our intuition tells us, okay? Our intuition tells us if that's that what we were there is real or not. It leaves us the flavor of, I know it's true, okay? Or it leaves us the flavor of, I don't know, that was strange. I don't think so, okay? Oh, well, yeah, but except the fourth dimension, okay? Yeah, the first, second, and fifth dimension. Yeah, those three. First, second, and fifth dimension is in our dreams. When we go to sleep, is that we find ourselves in those dimensions, okay? When we are unconscious, okay? Here I had said that maybe there is food poisoning, but you're unconscious of you're not conscious of everything that is going around you, okay? So when we are unconscious because of a certain drug, alcohol, food poisoning, or something, okay, any medicine, or because somebody had an accident and they were near dying and they saw things like that, they were in one of those three dimensions, okay? In this third and fourth dimensions, we are awake, like here right now, okay? We're not in the world of dreams. We are here, okay? And for the sixth and seventh dimension that we're going to talk about now, well, here it's where we practice meditation, okay? That's why these dimensions are higher, and the highest practice that we find is meditation. Okay, so through meditation we will go to the 6th and to the 7th dimension. The 6th dimension unfolds in 2 dimensions. Okay, the world of will. Okay, there we see how things were really done. Okay, for example, Big Bang Theory, it's just a theory. The name says it, doesn't mean that it is real. Okay, but I want to know the truth. So when I meditate and I ask my conscious to let me know that answer, it's going to take me to that world of will, of casual. Okay, and there I'm going to see really how it happened. Okay, so that's in the in that part of that dimension, that unfoldment. Okay, so since it has a double unfoldment in that second part, which is a higher dimension. Then there, if you have seen the movie Lucy, for example, it's like having a tablet. Okay, and you start moving through time. Okay, and there you just appear in that time where you wanted to see something. Okay, where you want to visit something or just be in another world. Have you seen, if you have seen the movie Him, you see that he puts himself in that meditation position and there is a spark, and the spark comes out. That is our conscious. That's why in that 6th and 7th dimension there is no ego, because the conscious comes out and travels to those dimensions. Okay, that's exactly what we see there. It could be in this same planet or in another, but we go to another world, and depending of how high our state of conscious is, that's the place where it will visit. Okay, that's the things that we will see. At the beginning, when people start meditating, they just see a really, really, really white light. But after that white light, there's another world. Okay, there are other worlds. Okay, there are things that we can see. For example, golden cities only made of gold. Okay, we could see the universe, we could travel, we could sit in any planet and just watch the whole universe. Okay, the Milky Way, imagine just sitting there in the Milky Way and you just like, wow, this is how. There we can get the answer to what people are always talking about, if the planet is flat or if it's round. Just go through meditation and go to the universe. From there you will really see how the planets are. Okay, there you find that answer. And in the 7th dimension, in that 7th dimension, since it's a higher state of consciousness, in that 7th dimension, what we see is the scripts of the pyramids. For example, remember that when you see a pyramid, it has this writing, but you don't understand it. Okay, it looks great, it looks cool, but you can't read it. Okay, but what happens there? Our conscious sees all of that writing and it reads it right away. It understands it. Okay, and it brings back all that information. Mathematics, it sees all of this physics written and it understands everything. Okay, from there we bring wisdom. Okay, just like Nikola Tesla did. Okay, that he just began seeing symbols and things like that, and he just started, he had a higher state of consciousness. Yeah, it was easier for him, but that's a pretty good example of it. Okay, so those are the 7 dimensions. Guys, any questions you have, please write to me. Love to hear you, love to answer you. Okay, and remember, our webpage is www.knowledgeofoneself.website. Okay, I'm here. You find me on, my God, on YouTube. Where am I? In another dimension. Okay, guys, see you.